Welcome to The Experience, live with Russ and Scott. Join us every Wednesday at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Learn more about the Experience community at our website, local.theexperience.video, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. The Experience is brought to you each week by these great sponsors. The Jalot Home Team at Keller Williams Mid-Willamette Real Estate, the #1 team in Oregon, 541-451-2211, teamjalot.com. Make 2025 your best year ever. Set and track your goals with the Independent Planner. Designed for entrepreneurs by an entrepreneur. Supplement your digital calendar. Independent-planner.com. Kicking Cancer. Kicking Cancer provides support, education, and resources for cancer patients, survivors, and families. Kicking-cancer.org. And now let's get on with the show.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to The Experience Live with Russ and Scott. So great to be here with you, my friend. How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing good. Some people think of Wednesday as hump day, and it's, downhill from here until the weekend. But I think of it as peak day because it's a highlight of the week because I get to hang out with Russ.
There you go. And we have two, what I call opportunity days left, man. There's opportunity. Well, actually three. We have all of today, tomorrow, and Friday. So get with it, everybody, and get out there and make great things happen. The experience of life can be amazing if you make it that way. And it's totally up to you. And we're here every Wednesday to help you, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 a.m. Texas Standard Time, to bless you and be just add value through all the amazing guests like Josh Abelson, who we've got on today. We're very excited to bring him on. But before we do that, got a few things we want to run through. We want to remind you that you can find out all the information about us at local.theexperience.video. And Scott and I have another show, The Experience Local, every Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific. Scott also has the Experience, the Waco Experience there in Waco. So lots of great things. And before this show, every Wednesday, we have the Experience Backstage on Instagram only. So there's a whole myriad of experiences you can experience on the week. Yeah. And there you go. So anyway, Scott, what else you got going on this week?
Well, I'm just excited. I get to go over to listen to folks from the Baylor Center for Developmental Disabilities. And this is a department within the university. They were actually a guest on the Waco Experience a couple of months ago. And they've got an event, a community communications event. And just being able to connect with folks who have disabilities. And, what are we doing as a community to help them out, to integrate? And a lot of work that the Baylor Center for Developmental Disabilities is doing is providing tools for businesses and houses of worship and different organizations to be inclusive.
Yeah, that is so amazing. A good friend of mine, Mr. Michael Ray, I had him on Marketing with Russ the other day, and he has a beautiful Down syndrome daughter, as does my good friend Sam Rice here in Oregon. He has two Down syndrome daughters, and they are the joys of their life. Disabilities actually can teach us so much, because I know through Michael Ray, for example, he displays the joy and the love, just pure and simple and unconditional, that his daughter has. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't have to be able to say a word to portray that. And that's what's so amazing about that. So I think people need to look into opportunities to be a blessing to others in those areas. And yeah, I think that's awesome, Scott. What else you got going on?
Well, it's just next week I'll be speaking at the Waco Networking Group. This is a group that I'm a part of. And I'll be speaking about my book, business networking a scientific method, and just helping give people the tools that's based on science, based on the brain science of how we connect, actually down to what words do you say and what the structure of your network should look like. So I'm looking forward to just sharing some of that and taking a few copies of the books, because as you know, Russ, it's always fun to be able to sign over those books to
There you go.
folks and
If,
and give them some interesting stuff.
if you haven't learned this, everybody, Scott is the deep one. I'm just a happy guy. I'm just like, woo, throw caution to the wind, and here we go. And Scott's like, let's break this down in a scientific method. I'm like, let's just go make friends. And Scott's go, well, yeah, but there's a science to that. I said, yeah, but I'm just going to go make friends.
Well, and that's Russ, the workshop that you offer, turning cold calling into making friends, is really a great practical way to grow your business. It's networking is the most efficient way for small businesses to grow. So if you're a small business, if you're a local business and you want to get more customers, then do what I did yesterday. I went down to Biddy and Bo's Coffee, which provides jobs for folks with developmental disabilities. And I went down there just because it was an afternoon. I go grab a cup of tea and do some work. Well, I ended up talking to Mark and Mike and Jessica and Mark, another Mark. And it was great. It was just serendipitous to be able to connect with folks.
Yeah, no, connection and community building is what it's all about. And speaking of which, we got to get our new community member and our new friend, Mr. Josh Abelson, in the room and start having this conversation, because he and I had an amazing chat a while back, and just so excited to have him come in. Are you ready, Scott?
Yeah, we were talking in the green room. He's got some great stuff to share.
All right. Well, here he is. Drum roll. Brrr. Come on in, Josh. How's it going?
It's going great. Russ and Scott, thanks for the opportunity to join you guys today.
So tell us about the picture on the back wall there before we get started, because everyone's going to say, what is that one?
Well,
when you were in the majors?
I'm from Fort Worth, Texas, and that's a picture of Nolan Ryan when he was bloodied from taking on Robin Ventura, and still went on to pitch an amazing game. So
beautiful.
Yeah,
the saying, "Don't mess with Texas." That's it.
Hey,
right there.
Nolan Ryan was amazing. He was amazing. Well, speaking of amazing, Josh, tell us a little bit about you. Who is Josh and what are you up to?
Wow, who am I? Well, that's a great question. So in this order, I'm a Christian, I'm a father, I'm a husband, a grandfather, a brother, and I'm an advocate for organ donation awareness and all things transplant, because I am the recipient of a double lung transplant 6 months yesterday.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is amazing. That within itself, you and I talked about all of that, through my cancer challenges and through your transplant and strengthening yourself and getting moving forward. It reminds me of just resilience and the ability to overcome some great challenges. And you obviously blessed by God, and you and I are on the same page there, obviously. But tell us a little bit more about that, coming back from something like that and be able to get back into all that you're doing.
Well, I've been in the commercial aviation aftermarket business for 37 years, roughly. And that's really been, aviation's been a passion forever. So, having something, when you're going through the challenges that we've gone through, having something to kind of look forward to getting back to, is important. Now, whether that's work or a hobby or a vocation or whatever it is, you need something to want to kind of get back to. So, I've run a really nice aviation parts and repair business here in Jacksonville, and we support every customers from airlines to regional airlines to business and general aviation around the world. And I've had the opportunity to travel to 53 countries in my career, and I've got about 5 million air miles. I'm not sure if that's anything to be proud of anymore, but at the time it seemed like a good idea. Yeah, that's and you know, the transplant slowed me down, but it didn't stop me, and it certainly changed my perspective on life and a lot of other things. But
So would you share some of that experience?
some of the
About
transplant experience?
Yeah, about coming up to it, and
Yeah, I mean, I'll try
we just
to
don't know what's going on. Yeah,
I'll try to make this quick. You know, when I joined the Marine Corps when I was 17, and they identified scar tissue on my lungs for the first time, and I had to get a special dispensation to join the Marine Corps, and I did, and that was fine, and I served and had no problems. Never came up again until about 2009. I had some kind of a growth right here under my rib cage, and I went to get it checked out, and they go, I don't know what that is, but you got scar tissue all over your lungs. And they diagnosed me with pulmonary fibrosis at that time. But it didn't affect my life, and I just kept on living my life. And then in 2016, I had a spontaneous pneumothorax, collapsed lung. It just happened after a workout, and they found some dried blood clots behind my lungs. So I think that was a God moment to say, hey, we need to look at this a little more closely. And then, but I was still fine until 2020. We had a group of folks come back from China in December, early January, December 19, early January 2020, when nobody knew what COVID was yet, but they were sick as a dog, and they all came in the office. And I think we all got COVID for the first time. And that was the first time I saw a noticeable decline in my lung capacity. And then in 2021, I had COVID, and that decreased my lung function to the point where I needed supplemental oxygen to fly. I could no longer be at altitude, because when you're cruising at altitude about 30,000 feet, that's about being 8,000 feet high on your body. And so I had to have supplemental oxygen for that. And then in 2023, I had COVID and pneumonia back to back. And that my lungs just said, I'm done. And so by February, I started the protocol, and we had moved to Jacksonville in December of 2023. And I'm 20 minutes from the Mayo Clinic, which was another, I think, God moment. And I started the protocol, went through all the evaluations, which is a pretty significant physical and mental evaluation to qualify. And then started working out, and they've got a cardio rehab program there, and they fill you full of oxygen, and they push you and push you. And I worked out 3 days a week with them for 3 months before I went to the hospital, and then lost 18 pounds, or I'm sorry, I lost 26 pounds in 18 days in the hospital.
My goodness. Wow.
And most of which comes out of your legs, and that's what you need to be able to walk, right? Because they get you up the second day, the third day. And I spent 18 days in the hospital, and then got back into rehab with them. And I've been very blessed in my recovery. And I was on short-term disability for 6 weeks and worked remote for 2 weeks, and then came back to the office 2 months after my surgery. So,
wow, what a story.
Yeah. I mean, it is amazing, because I think that obviously you trusting the Lord and then moving forward and taking action to make yourself better and overcome what you were going through. I mean, you're a miracle story, but it took work on your end. And I think that's true in life in general. I think that, whether you're in aviation or in marketing or whatever you're in, we all run against challenges, whether they're health challenges, life challenges that we have to overcome to move beyond. I'd say every day that my plan, trusting God, moving forward, is to get better and be back to full strength and doing all that I do. And I take steps towards that all the time. So when it comes to, let's bounce back a little bit to aviation, because that's very fascinating. So with all of that, you were interested in that from obviously a young age. Talk a little bit more about all that you do there.
So we're an FAA repair station. So we're certified as a repair facility. There's about 5,000 repair stations in the United States. We are a distribution company, and we are what's called a PMA company. So Parts Manufacturer Approval is an FAA program that allows you to make alternative parts that are equal to or better than the OEM parts. So if you think of Napa in automotive, for instance, or generic drugs, it's the same thing. You have to basically, through test and computation, reverse engineer a part, create your own drawing, and typically sell it for 65% of what the OEM sells it for. So we do those three things, and in addition, we buy and sell and lease aircraft and engines throughout, along with that. So we are an authorized service center for de Havilland on the Dash 6, which is called a Twin Otter airplane. So we are authorized landing gear facility. There's only 3 in the world, and we're one of them.
I think I've seen the de Havilland as a seaplane as well.
Yeah, that's right. They're on, a lot of them are on floats.
Yeah.
It's a 19-seater, and they use them in all the islands, fly them, because they can just slide right up to the dock, get people out, and be on their way. And they don't need much runway to take off.
Well, it's interesting. Speaking of floating and flying, it's been very cold here in Oregon, and I see Leanna's telling us
just a very elegant looking plane, by the way, too.
Okay, I think we froze there for a sec. Are you there, Scott?
Yeah, I was having internet slowdown, I think.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Hey, I was going to say, going back to what we were talking about with aviation, this time of the year when it gets very cold, and even in Oregon, it's cold here. And I see Leanna's telling us it's 3 degrees Fahrenheit -3 this morning where she is in Minnesota. How does that affect flying? Obviously, it affects floating, but I'm just curious on that.
Well, I mean, the different environmental conditions do have an impact, whether it's high heat and sand in the desert or cold and wet and icy. I mean, it does have an impact on the engines and the performance, but not enough to be significant. So,
right.
I mean, if you flew through a hailstorm, you'd have a lot of problems, right? Because your flight controls would get beat up. But
sure.
Just being in a cold climate, I mean, they're built for that, and so it's really not a problem. The de-icing is the biggest thing, before you take off, just to make sure that you keep your flight controls clear.
Yeah, I've been on planes before and had to sit through the de-icing process. So it just made me think about that from that comment. So, well, when in your business and you're dealing with so many people, we're talking about the experience of life here. And Scott and I were talking about, community and all that we do here. You being a man of God and just really all that you've gone through in life, how important is that community to you, not only in your business, but in your life? I want to talk a little bit about that. What do you think?
We talk about this business. I mentioned to Scott before we started that, it's a $45 billion business. So it's a big business, but it's a really small community. And once you get into this industry, you stay in the industry. I mean, I've been in it for, 37 years, and I've got friends. And there's a difference between friends and acquaintances, right? So I have friends in Japan, in Korea, in Malaysia, in England, and Germany, and all over the world that I've met through this, and we've grown up, and in some cases now their kids are in this industry, and so you stay connected, and this is it's still a relationship business. And it's a trade show conference heavy industry, which means we get together, on whatever continent 3 or 4 times a year. And then in between at golf tournaments and other events. So yeah, I mean, community is huge in my work life and personally, the support. I had people praying for me all over the world.
Oh yeah.
During my journey. And And I mean, that's powerful. You can feel that. I mean, you can feel those prayers. And so, community is huge, and you got to be vulnerable to really be in community. Otherwise, it's just a superficial thing. And a lot of guys don't want to be vulnerable.
Right.
And so, that's, you learn this stuff sometimes, later than you wish. But as I try to equip the next generation, that's kind of what I'm imparting to them is, don't be afraid to be vulnerable, and also open your viewfinder to new people and new experiences. That, if you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you spend all your time with the same 4 knuckleheads, you're just going to be a knucklehead forever. You got
That's right. That's one of my favorite quotes, by the way. And I think what's so interesting about this is it really brings it full circle in life. That not only your business but personal life, community is so vital. And I'm with you 100%. Having a worldwide community since COVID and all that I do in business, I've had people praying for me on every continent that I'm going through. And you do feel those prayers, and you do feel that. And, my whole life has been about encouraging and lifting up others. But when you are going through challenges and you receive that back from an amazing community, it means so much. And most of those people are people through business. It's not just that I've become great friends with.
Right.
And a lot of times people say, "Oh yeah, you can't mix personal with business." And I'm like, "Oh yes, you can." In fact, yes, you should.
Yeah, I disagree. Yeah.
Scott?
So I was just, Josh, you're talking about sharing with the young folks coming in. And so how did you get involved in the industry, and what do you recommend for students today that are in high school, college, and might be interested in aviation themselves?
Well, so when I went in the Marine Corps, I was going to be an air traffic controller. And I found out I didn't have enough depth perception in my left eye. Just didn't know that was a thing at the time. And so my brother was a career planner in the Marine Corps at the time. And I said, what are the 2 hottest jobs in aviation? And they were crash crew or jet engine mechanic. And I said, I don't want to polish fire trucks and pick guys up off the tarmac for a living. So I'm going to be a jet engine mechanic. So that's what I did in the Marine Corps. I worked on the F4, which is now on a stick outside most bases as a museum piece. But and then when I got out of the Marine Corps, I started selling real estate. And the girl that worked for me's dad was the vice president of an aviation company. I had never heard of it. She said, "You got to meet my dad. You got to meet my dad." And I said, "You know what? People always say that, but nothing ever happens." And then one day I had a really bad day at work. I said, "I want to meet your dad." And I met him, and he hired me, and I worked for him for 10 years, my first aviation job. And so, and then it, like I said, gets in your blood and off you go. But I would tell young folks today, first of all, there are massive labor shortages in aviation, whether you want to be in a technical, mechanical field or engineering, or even certainly pilots, supply chain, and the airlines provide a tremendous opportunity, as do other. There's not just airlines. There's regional airlines. There's business aviation, but all of them provide, great opportunities to explore the world, to make a difference. And I was interviewing a 25-year-old earlier this week, and he was working for like a moving company. And he was interviewing for an entry-level job. I interview every person that comes to our company. I have to interview because I'm making sure the culture fits right. I leave it to my team to figure out all the technical requirements, but they got to fit my culture, our culture. It's not mine, it's ours. But so anyway, I was talking to him about the impact our jobs here has. Every part we put out goes on an airplane that our families fly on. And if you don't do it right, somebody can die. Right. This is not, a bad cup of coffee or a mixed up, lunch menu. This is life and death. This is safety. And And so, if young folks want to really make an impact and be in a career field that is never going to go away, the world's getting smaller, not bigger. There'll never be no airlines, no aviation, right? It's not an industry that's going away, and it's pretty much even through COVID. I mean, people still flew, right? So it's pretty much resistant to everything. I mean, because commerce still has to happen, freight still needs to move, right? Those are airplanes too, right? So we support freighters and passenger airplanes and helicopters, and so it's a great field. It's interesting. It's always changing. It's got a good technology edge if you're interested in that. They're getting smarter and smarter about apps and platforms, and there's something for everybody in this space.
Well, and flying during COVID may have been a financial hit for the airlines, but I loved it because I got my own row.
Yeah.
Lots of elbow room.
There you go.
That was a good thing for sure. Well, listen, I think there's a good reason. I have so much respect for you, Josh, and people in your industry, people in medical profession, people that deal with life and death every day. I think there's a good reason God didn't put me in that field, because he thought, yeah, we should probably not put people's lives in your hands. So you just go do marketing and make friends. But anyway, no, I just have so much respect for all that you do. And as we get ready to wind up here, you had so much great information. If you can boil that down to really your gold nugget that you want people to remember from our discussion today, what's really important to you for people to remember about your job, about life, whatever that we talked about, and then tell everybody how they get in touch with you, because we definitely want to make sure people know where to reach out.
I think the parting comment would be, the cliche, life's too short. It's not a cliche. It's real. And when you're staring down the barrel of death, and you get a second chance, don't wait for that. Don't make a bucket list, make an action list, and go do the things that you want to do. Because I had no idea I was going to end up here, but we started doing our bucket list when I turned 50. And we got all these big monumental trips and experiences with my wife and I and our friends, because I said, I don't know what the geopolitical climate's going to be like, our financial situation, our health's going to be like. So don't wait. Don't make a bucket list, make an action list and go do it. And the other piece would be, the small stuff. I wrote something last night because I'm writing my story, but I don't sweat the small stuff. But 6 months ago, I couldn't take out the trash. I couldn't bring in the groceries. I couldn't carry a laundry basket without supplemental oxygen. All these things that you take for granted or you think that are annoyances or chores, I couldn't do any of them, and without dragging around an oxygen tube. So now my wife doesn't have to ask me to do anything because I'm on it, because I can, and I feel good about it. So don't take the life for granted, and also take care of your body now, because it's not, these parts don't get renewed. You don't want to go through this if you don't have to.
So you can't get the OEM parts. Is that what you're telling me?
You can't. So yeah.
Not even at 65% of cost, because that sounds like a good deal.
Yeah. When you go to get aftermarket parts in life, it's a lot more than that.
Yeah, a lot more than that.
All right. So there you go.
Josh, tell us real quickly how they get in touch with you.
I see you got my LinkedIn up on the screen, and that's really the best way to get to me is through LinkedIn.
Okay. Yeah, we got both your LinkedIn and website, and I just encourage everybody to reach out to Josh. And I tell you, amazing point. Life is short. You do need to take action. I'm with you 100%. I've learned that firsthand. I'm still learning it as I go through this. And so I'm with you. But what I love is somebody said this to me the other day, and you're this way completely. And that is, focus on what you can do, not what you can't do. When you were going through those struggles and needing oxygen and all that, you were still doing things. You were focusing on what you could do. even in the midst of that, and getting to now you could do so much more, and you've overcome. And what a blessing you are, Josh. And I just want to say thank you for being here today.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I pray for you every day, Russ, on your journey. And Scott, it's great to meet you. And yeah, I love what you guys are doing. So thanks for the opportunity.
Great to meet you, and thanks for sharing your story.
You bet.
Great inspiration.
You bet.
Yes. Well, thanks again. You're such a blessing. Hang tight. We're going to send you to the green room and say goodbye, but we'll be right there as we wrap up. All right. Thanks, Josh. Have a good one.
Bye.
Wow. I mean, so when he and I first talked, I was like blown away. First of all, I love that he loves God. I love that he is such an overcomer through this horrible medical journey that he had to go through, that he's turned into a positive in his life. I can relate to that. And yeah, we just really bonded quickly, and I just really love that guy.
And so I like this, that the action list is greater than the bucket list. And I was remembering back when our kids were young and we were coming into summer, and Christine and I sat down and we made a list of things that when we got back, when the summer was over and the school year was starting, what did we want to have done that year? You know, going to the coast, going to the mountains, going to the wildlife safari with the kids, right? We just made a list of these things, and then we put them on the calendar and we got them done. And when we got to September in the school year, we looked back over that list and we did it. And the reason is because we chose to do that. And there's a book coming out by Russ Hedge called Life Happens and Then You Choose. So
that's right. I do that every day of my life. And you know what, Scott, I couldn't agree more with Josh and you on that point, because, you know, I tell my family, partially jokingly, but it's very true. I said, you know, hey, we should do this now because I don't know if I'll be here next year. You know, and they wanted to take me to Hawaii for my 60th birthday for a few days. I said, let's do it, because if we can pull it off, I said, I don't know if I'll be here next year. And they're like, stop it. And I said, well, I plan to be here, but I don't know. And
well,
so the whole,
you know, we had that guest on earlier who said, you know, I don't know if I'm going to have the chance to say this, so let me say it now. And, you know, and it's true, right? Because I don't know if I'm going to cross the street and get hit by a beer truck, which we decided, my wife and I decided, that's the least glamorous way to go. Crossing the street and get hit by a beer truck couldn't be anything less glamorous than that.
Probably not good. Well, thank you, Scott. As always, you are life and a blessing to me, and I appreciate you. And I just want to remind everybody that we're here every Wednesday together. I am blessed to be with my good friend. Let's see which way, that way. D. Scott Smith every Wednesday, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Yeah, I know it's backwards on my, anyway. And, you know, we are here for your viewing and listening pleasure. That's right. It goes live at 7 a.m. But then guess what? It stays on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook forever as a video podcast. You can go back, you can watch, rewatch, you can share, you can comment, you can connect every day of your life. And also, you can listen to it because they convert to audio podcasts. If you can't watch, iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, whatever your favorite podcast platform is, while you're driving, while you're cooking, while you're getting ready for work, whatever, listen to the podcast. And finally, don't forget to just continue to engage. If you watch on replay, please put #replay and say hi to us and connect with Josh. He is an amazing individual. You want to connect with him. And I'm just so thankful we had him here today. Finally, I said it before, but local.theexperience.video is a place to go for information about Scott and I. Oh, finally, Scott, I forgot about this too. Coming up, guess what we have? Guess what we have coming up?
Ooh.
Look at that. Look at that. I guess I
200.
should get this out of I should get the actual, where is that? The banner out of the way. There we go.
So Ever has done a great job. I love this. Episode 200 is coming up soon. And I just want to thank our sponsors for supporting us and making these episodes possible, for the great guests like Josh today, who just shared great stories of inspiration. And I'll tell people, go ahead and subscribe to whatever way works for you, whether it's YouTube, whether it's on one of the podcast platforms. Listen to the experience while you're checking items off your action list.
There you go. Exactly. You should be doing that action. And, speaking of action, 200 is an amazing number of shows that you and I have been able to do. And guess,
Excellent.
within about a week of Scott's and my show, I will also be celebrating 500 episodes on Marketing with Russ. So I have a 200 and a 500, which are both blow my mind. But, that just goes to show how blessed Scott and I are with amazing people that want to share their value.
Mhm.
And when we started this, we never thought we'd do 200 or 500 or anything like that. We just said, let's do a few live streams to see what we
Who
think.
knows what was going to happen?
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Please pay attention. Coming up next month, the 200th episode. Remember, like Scott said, take action now. And we just thank you so much for being here today. We'll be here next Wednesday, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, for your listening and viewing pleasure. Always having fun. Until next week. See you, everybody. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to The Experience live with Russ and Scott. If you enjoyed today's show, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or subscribe on YouTube. See you next time.